The Forum at 8 with Xolani Gwala.
It is 7.5 minutes after 8. Once again, we welcome you to the Forum at 8 here on SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader. Well, this morning we're talking about water. The Gauteng North High Court will rule next week, I think on Tuesday, on whether or not Water and Environmental Affairs Minister Edna Molewa, the Department of Water Affairs, and 8 other government officials and institutions have breached the constitution by failing to supply Mpumalanga town with potable water. The dam that supplies water to Carolina, which is a town of about 17,000 people, is polluted with acid mine water, prompting anger over what residents there claim is a failure to provide an alternative. Carolina residents say some of them have had to drink polluted water because of the irregular supply. But then again, observers broadly say Carolina's water problems highlight a looming water crisis across this country, as the government's focus is on broadening or has been on broadening access to water services, but that has happened at the expense of infrastructure maintenance. Now, on the forum, we want to know whether that is true. We would like to hear your experiences as well from wherever you may be. We hear people all the time calling us, complaining, sending SMSs. We're sharing water with animals, this, that, and the other in terms of the quality of their drinking water, particularly in rural parts of this country. That's what we would like to talk about this morning. 0891 104 208. That's the number to call this morning. 0891 104 208. But also you can send us text messages about the quality of your drinking water. Let's talk about it. 34701. Send me an email at gwalax@sabc.co.za. On our lines then, let me welcome Minister Edna Molewa. She's the Minister of Water and Environmental Affairs. A very good morning to you, Minister.
Good morning, Xolani, and good morning to your listeners, and thanks for having me.
Thanks indeed. Well, in our Sea Point studios in Cape Town, we're joined there by Christine Colvin, Manager of Freshwater Programs at the Worldwide Fund for Nature, WWF. Christine, good morning.
Good morning, and good morning to Minister Molewa and
morning,
your listeners.
Thank you. Christine, perhaps I should start with you. Is the statement about the water problems in Carolina likely reflecting a looming water crisis? Is that an exaggeration or is it a true statement?
I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think it is a true statement. And one of the critical issues that we're facing at the moment is that the presidential infrastructural development plans are very much focused on economic growth based around mining and exploitation of our mineral resources. And we're particularly concerned about the proliferation of mining in sensitive catchment areas and our headwater areas. Only 12% of South Africa's land area generates more than 50% of our surface runoff. So we're concerned that mining, and especially coal mining, which does result in acid mine drainage, should be kept out of these areas, because we've seen that in areas where we've got a long legacy of coal mining, acid mine drainage is generally the result.
Yeah, but again, I suppose the question is whether or not the issue of the quality of drinking water is only a problem around mining areas where acid mine drainage is an issue, or generally across the country.
The rural areas often face different issues with water services. And you raised the issue about operation and maintenance of water services, that we've put a lot of emphasis on trying to get engineered infrastructure in. And we don't necessarily have the maintenance plans to ensure that the continual delivery of good quality water follows from that. And at WWF, we believe that we could be looking at different solutions, particularly for rural water supply, that are much more water-wise and that build the social capital in our country, that result in much more skills development and job creation around smaller scale water schemes, rather than just trying to go for big dams and lots of piped reticulation that requires very little operation and maintenance, but doesn't develop the country in the same way that we could be making the most of our natural water resources.
Sure. We'll talk a little bit about the skills available at municipalities so that they can deal with reticulation issues and also issues of water purification in a minute. But let me bring in the minister then. Minister, you're sitting with a situation where people are saying the department may very well be embarrassed by the outcome of this High Court challenge here, simply because you may be found not to have complied with the constitutional requirement to ensure access to clean water for everybody in this country.
You'll give me a chance to come back to the issues that Christine raised.
Certainly.
But let me just quickly zoom into the issues raised about Carolina.
Yeah.
Well, Xolani, you know that all of us in South Africa, including this department and our government in its entirety, have actually acknowledged that we have a problem in South Africa of acid mine drainage. It has been in the Western Basin, Central Basin, and Eastern Basin. That's in Gauteng. It is also in Mpumalanga. And we are the first to say that we are dealing with that problem. We would like to work with the mining community. We also like to work with our people. In Carolina, what has happened is that the challenge that we're facing right now emerged in a very, very strange way. We must say that we had actually not expected that there would have been that kind of a problem at that time. And once it started emerging, which is what we saw through brown water, very dark brown water, oozing out of a wetland, something that hasn't happened in the past. We immediately moved in there. It's a pity that we are discussing this matter when it's already in front of the court. But I must say that, Xolani, that since that moment, there has never been a minute that we have not been on the scene in that town, working around the clock tirelessly to get the situation improving. And we have actually issued to 4 mining houses already pre-directives. We are going to be giving them directives now that we have actually found that indeed the pollution is linked to those 4 mines. And we'll come to that part when we deal with that issue. But what about the community water for drinking? Yeah. We have not been away for a minute, I'm saying. We have been supplying and tankering the water to that as a short-term and short-term, I must say. We had a medium-term plan. We have a long-term plan to deal with that issue in Carolina.
Even though, Minister, sorry to interrupt you, because there was a TV broadcast a couple of days ago, some members of the community saying, well, it's the first time actually we see these water tanks in our community.
No, when I was there, I personally saw those water tanks, and it's in February, Xolani. I personally saw that. But let me tell you, there's a political problem there that we must not undermine. We brought in these water tanks. 140,000 rand we pay to source 1 tank. When it's the municipality that sources the same tank from the same supplier, the municipality is asked for 40,000 rand. Now we have been sourcing this water through the municipality. When that changed for 40,000 rand, we immediately had an eruption of violence in that community. They banned the water tankers, and as a result, we had to go and look for other water tankers. That's the moment when they're saying they didn't have enough. Remember that the law actually says that we should supply water in the community. It doesn't say what standard, but we have been doing our best to actually supply as adequate as possible. But by the time they banned those water tankers, that's a minute that we have actually had that a bit of a problem of a lapse. And we have said this to the court. As I'm saying that we have argued this, we are not arguing that the people shouldn't have water. We are saying let's work together as a community to have water. But secondly, medium term plan is to actually, we have improved the water treatment plant to get it to function to high level standard, because it wasn't functioning up to the optimum level. It's now working. There's more water coming in. Our third plan, long term now, is that we have already made money available to now look at the RBIC, the Regional Bulk Infrastructure Scheme, to which will supply the entire area of that whole municipality, not just Carolina town. So we are seized with this problem. But let me also say that this morning and yesterday, actually, we got news that the first set of tests of laboratories from the laboratories does suggest that the water would actually be ready for drinking. We're waiting for the last test, which will come on Monday. So I'm saying we've been on the ground, we've been working very hard round the clock.
All right. Of course, there are so many things that are coming out of what you are saying, including the fact that this may be deliberate on the part of other people that may be pushing certain agendas. But surely government must be able to arrest those people.
Oh, yes, certainly we agree. We agree, but if the police are still investigating and then you have people who are saying that you have not supplied the water, we can't say, yes, we have not supplied the water. We are saying it's because of this problem. Let the police investigate and find those people. We are not even prepared to protect anybody in that regard.
I wanted, though, to go to another point that you raised, because you seem to be suggesting, at least to me, that the issue in here is much about acid mine drainage. But other people are saying that, whilst, yes, it is about acid mine drainage, but it's also mostly about the ability of the municipality to carry out its mandates around water. Water purification systems are not able to deal with contaminated water in that municipality.
That we have acknowledged, Xolani, long time ago. And I've said to people that if there's anything that makes me spend sleepless nights, it's not the provision of water, but it's that maintenance element. By the way, remember that all is not doom and gloom. We have recently given out the results of the blue drop and green drop status in our country. In other words, the status and the level of quality of water, and it's good quality in many municipalities. So let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater. There are certain municipalities, however, where you still have this problem of maintenance being such a pain indeed. And it's not just maintenance, by the way, it's also because of the old nature of the old infrastructure that we have inherited and that we have. It needs to be refurbished. I did say a few months ago that we require just holistically through the whole value chain, something like 573 billion rand, just to deal with water issues and provision and access. But maintenance alone is in the tune of about 200 million or so. 200 billion or so, just as on an ongoing basis. Christine said we don't have a maintenance plan. Yes, we do have a plan, but we do need this money, which we know that South Africans do not have right now.
Okay.
But we are doing our best to actually deal with those issues.
Let me talk about the plan, though. Does it imply that you have the necessary skills to do this maintenance? Because people have complained that in far-flung rural municipalities, actually, there are no engineers. They have absolutely no idea how to carry out these ridiculous. So the plan is really useless, Minister, if it doesn't have the people to carry it through.
No, remember, if you have a plan, you don't just wait until one day there are qualified people and skills available. I've said again, as I made announcement on several occasions, that we have centralized the intervention mechanisms into provinces. We have put together, realizing that there is this challenge of skills in far-flung municipalities where they may not even ever have a qualified engineer, two of them put together, or even other artisan skills. We have put together teams that actually works with those municipalities at a regional level. There is always a rapid response team consisting of various other skills. That's an intermediate thing, and the medium, short-term and intermediate thing. But for Xolani, we're not sitting. We have gone to the Department of Public Works to source and tap on the skills. You remember, former minister put together teams of recalled engineers who have retired. We are making use of those. We are also training at our Rodi Platt School, Rodi Platt Training School of Water Institution, young artisans, young generations to actually deploy in those municipalities. We have already in Mpumalanga begun deploying some of them because 51 of them were available just in this year and from between last year and this year. So we're working on that issue of the skills because we recognize that we do need those skills, especially in municipalities.
Okay, I'm going to come back to the issue, by the way, of the infrastructure plan that is being rolled out and whether or not it's going to exacerbate this problem. But let me go to Christine now and say to her, here's the plan. The minister has told you about it.
Certainly there is a plan for maintenance, and I think it's laudable that the government is looking more at skills development rather than just building more engineered infrastructure. I think there are some of the small scale solutions that get missed out along the way with very high level planning. And we have a plan on the table in terms of our integrated resources plan for low carbon growth. We have our national development plan as well. And we'd like to see that along with low carbon growth, we also have a water-wise plan for future development. And the issue is not so much around planning within the water sector. And I support the minister in saying that, they have been working very hard on a lot of these issues. But we also need to see proactive planning in other sectors. So particularly for mining, we need to see very water-wise decisions coming through in the plans for infrastructural development in support of mining that do not compromise future generations' ability to meet their water needs. At the moment, the proliferation of prospecting licenses, currently more than half of Mpumalanga is under prospecting license. This is not sustainable development. We need to see much more integrated development planning that says in certain areas in this limited 12% of our country that generates most of our runoff, we cannot afford the risk of mining, particularly coal mining. Now, we're not anti-mining. That doesn't mean that you can't mine anywhere. We're just saying where water provisioning is critical in the landscape, prioritize water in those landscapes and put mining into second place. In other areas, allow best practice for mining and good water management.
Sure. All right. Minister, please respond to that then, especially the infrastructure program issue.
Let me just an overarching statement. We should remember that as South Africans, yesterday, Xolani, or tomorrow, you may be faced up with somebody who's has to debate the level of unemployment in this country, the level of economic activity that's needed in this country.
Yeah.
We recognize that. But however, even if it's as though like that, we do know that all of us are pushing very hard for South Africans to understand that there's a need for sustainable development. Now, me, Christine, and many others are the likes of who are saying that let's deal with sustainable development. What are we doing in the area of mining? We already have, let me just start by saying that the IRP plan, the plan that Christine is talking about, the plan going forward is actually, as I speak, in front of the cluster of DGs. It's going into cabinet. It's going to cabinet processes. Once it goes, it comes out of there. There is going to be wide consultation throughout the country where every other citizen of South Africa will make a comment. But we are put together that kind of a plan, an investment plan going into the future. It even deals with these other smaller sources of water that we're talking about and provision, harvesting of water, recycling, all those issues, because we need to look at all this. We are the first to say that when it comes to water, we can't, even in the National Development Plan, put water like in agriculture, and it's the same water that you're talking about in agriculture as the one that you're talking about in industry and so on. And we can't tend to think that it's different sets of waters or kinds of water. We're talking about the same pool. So we've got to be very prudent in managing that water and in a sustainable manner. So that's what we have put as a plan, and it's coming into South Africa. We would like to hear comments and inputs and really enriching that plan. But secondly, with the mining, we are looking with Minister Shabangu a mechanism that will for the first time bring changes in South Africa after a long while that we've been struggling. What is that? We have now agreed that there will be a one-stop shop on agreeing on licensing, on authorizations. It's not just a water and licensing for minerals, but it will also have the EIAs. In other words, when a mining license is applied for, we'll also simultaneously look at the availability of water in that area, whether we should permit it or not. So that one-stop shop is coming, and it's going to be in the regulation. It's not going to be a good heart or gesture from me and Shabangu, so that everybody who comes even behind us, after us, should actually implement that. Okay. So that sustainability element is being worked on. By the way, in the stream of Carolina, we will now be looking at the entire catchment, even after getting this water clean, because we would want to be sure that this kind of a thing that has happened doesn't happen. We understand every little thing that's happening within that coal mine area.
All right, I'll open the lines here on 0891 104 208 just to hear people's experiences in different localities. 0891 104 208. Let's hear what people have to say about this. But just talking about that, Minister, I wanted to ask you, because you said in terms of the Blue Drop report, a number of municipalities were found to have adequately good quality of water.
Quality management, good quality water.
But on average, I mean, out of 270 or so municipalities, can you give me the numbers?
Well, it's actually over 60% of the municipalities that had attained Blue Drop of the municipalities. And unfortunately, Xolani, it's municipalities which are in the haves areas. And the have-nots, like we're saying, far-flung area, it reflects the nature of our society continuously. Former homelands, that's where these problems mainly are. And that's why we're saying a lot more intervention is sought by ourselves. By the way, we've evaluated all the schemes that we have in South Africa, be they at municipal level, be they with all other departments. We know the status of those schemes. That's the schemes of water treatment plant and wastewater treatment plant. That's now the sanitation one. But as I say, it's over 60%. And the over 60% I'm talking about, by the way, is of cum laude. If you are to take those we don't take 70% as good enough. We take 90% and above. It's over 60%, about 69% or so that I'm talking about has received cum laude, above 90% of water.
But I'm more worried about the other 40%, Minister, because the level of contamination, I'm worried about that level of contamination. Is it possible that where then they aren't able to get this Blue Drop status, you have water that carries diseases, waterborne diseases?
No, let's not be worried, because it's even, as I say, those that are below 69%, 68% that I'm talking about, those who are on 70%, 80%, it doesn't mean that water you can't drink. You can still drink that water with ease, with confidence from the pipes. There are just a few, I think it's about 4 in Mpumalanga, two in Eastern Cape, where we said to people, please don't even touch this water. So there are a few that, and again, we are 24/7 living, staying there on those plants, treatment plant, dealing with them. It doesn't mean that those others that do not have this cum laude, you can't drink, and they're therefore polluted. It's just that we want the highest standard ever. Even that which has attained 88%, we don't count it in.
All right, a couple of SMSs are coming through here. There's one from, for instance, somebody who says, in my village in Port St. John's, we have no clean drinking water ever since I was born. I'm 50 years now. So it's a long-standing problem in the area of Port St. John's, says this SMS. But also another one says, here, a political agenda has been pushed. Edna is right, and it is from opposition Charlie in the Premier's office, obviously saying that there's a political agenda in the area of Carolina. But I'm wondering whether this means that people have no reason to complain. Is that what it means when people are talking about a political agenda?
No, they can complain, but all we're saying is that there are political problems that we have to solve politically. Let's not go to water. Situation in Mafikeng, Xolani, typical. A transformer gets chopped. That pumps water to clean it. What do people expect? I mean, honestly, with all due respect. Some rubble gets thrown into the pipe, a big pipeline that has got to fill up the reservoir. What do we say about that? I mean, some of these things we've got to really stand up as community and society and say a big no to it. Port St. John's problem. We do understand that it's not just Port St. John's, it's Sekhukhune. We do, by the way, also have a data, very clear data of each and every village where there is this kind of a problem, where people never had water. I'm saying, even though we say there's 94-point-something% coverage that we have reached in South Africa, and the remaining 5.3 we have to reach, or 5.7 we have to reach, we do know that this 5.3 is actually voiceless people who we will never hear. Okay. And I've said, Xolani, that now we have a project that targets specifically those people. In the next 2 years, no South Africans, have said in the department, must drink water from the river, must not have water in a village like Port St. John's. So we have a special project, special program. We were discussing it 3 days ago and finalizing the plans thereof. It's funded partly, and their low-lying fruits will really get South Africa working in those villages and in those areas where there's no water.
Let me go to Jackson in Balfour in Mpumalanga. Hello, Jackson.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for your call.
Yeah, well, I'm speaking to Jackson here in Balfour.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I just want to compliment the municipality of Lephalale for the improvement of water quality planning. Like about 4 days ago, they informed the public that the water will not be available because they will be cleaning the water. 2 days later, the water was very, very clean. I really want to say that I must compliment the municipality, including the mayor, Sarah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. That's a call from Jackson in Balfour. And I remember Balfour was also mired in controversy a couple of years ago. Because
absolutely. We had to zoom in there as well. We had to zoom in the same way like we did with Terry. Now back in, the treatment plant is working. It's now back in action.
Yeah. All right. It's 8:30. Let's take the news headlines. We'll come back, take more calls, 0891 104 208. Also SMSs. A lot of people are saying, no, maybe their areas have problems, that you're going to need a lot of money to do this. Where's the money going to come from? All of that on SMS, but also emails, gwala@sabc.co.za. Give me a call, 0891 104 208. We'll take your calls straight after all our updates. For now, though, we're talking about water. Remember my guests on the program at this time, Minister Edna Molewa. She's the Minister of Water and Environmental Affairs also. From our Sea Point studios, I'm joined there by Christine Colvin, Manager of Freshwater Programs, Worldwide Fund for Nature, WWF. What are your experiences then? Let me go straight to the lines here. Perhaps let me start with Peter in Grahamstown. Hello, Peter.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Peter Wiley.
Yes, Peter Wiley. Look, I've got a lot to say, but I just want to confine myself to saying that we need to become much more intolerant of what is happening around us, and we need to hold the authorities to account. We need to empower the individual. Ourselves on our farm, we actually have embarked, I have personally embarked very long ago on this Australian concept of water harvesting, and we've actually increased the water capacity of our farm and stopped erosion totally. It's not a new concept, and most of the concepts are old and well tried, but we've got to start doing things. But as far as Grahamstown goes, there is terrific pollution of the little river where I grew up, down Belmont Valley, which runs down towards Port Alfred. And one of the main problems is effluent and just not actually being intolerant of what people are doing, because effluent and sewage is one of our biggest problems in South Africa. Of course, mining is bad. The basic problem is what we call development in this country is retrogression, because it's really selfishness. We want to try and make ourselves comfortable at the expense of nature. And if you go way back, I mean, obviously when the Khoisan were here, the country was perfectly well conserved. But when blacks came down, the problem started with a slash and burn type of agriculture. Then the whites came, and it was even worse because they brought technology and plows, etc. Farming is a problem, yes, but what we've got to aim for is to make conservation fun and a pleasure. And we should aim to have our rivers running clean. Now, one of the other problems which we have on our farm, which we have great difficulty in controlling, are these Australian plants.
All right, the alien plants. All right, we'll talk about the alien plants some other time, Peter.
Black wattle is one of the main things, and I feel that there should be more effort into putting some biological control. It's basic greed. People are making money from black wattle, and they
Peter, okay, I've got to move on, unfortunately. A lot of emails are coming through here. There's Mketsi, actually, Egua, in Butterworth, who says, here, Egua, the situation is pathetic. We are sharing water with animals. As from April this year, the taps are closed and we don't know why. That's the situation in Egua. But also another email from Bonginkosi Ngumalo, who says, the issue of quality drinking water is not only hitting the mining areas. For example, the village that I'm coming from in Bushbuckridge, in Dlamakosi village in Mpumalanga, we last had tap water in 1995, 18 years ago. Since then, we've been sharing water with cows. We are close to taking this into the streets. Let's go to Elias in Sekokune. Hello, Elias.
Yes, very much. How are you?
All right, welcome.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I felt touched about this matter because I was a former employee in that municipality. I think the minister, exactly what is raising on issues of exit contamination, it may not be also a factor on the matter. We have the water treatment works have been upgraded some time ago. The replacement of the old asbestos pipe was also replaced a year ago. Now, I could not understand why it should be now the problem on issues of, say, the water has been contaminated with acid, while the intervention the municipality put there. The issue of purification, buying of chemicals also. People have been suspended after the outbreak. There was an outbreak of cholera long ago. And people were been suspended and dismissed from work because of that reason. But now, the issue now is becoming somehow. So I really felt touched because some of the issues I was close to them. I was really working on trying to improve the area. And the issue of the attitude of the employee also comes to a thought because they were pumping raw water directly to the consumption.
All right. Elias Nsekokune. All right. I'll get the minister to respond. Let me read some SMSs. I'm going to ask Christine to also comment before I go to the minister. Christine, if you may comment for me on whether or not what you're hearing from my listeners is true. But before we do that, let's read some SMSs. Somebody says, could you please ask the minister about Sitlachole village near Mahikeng, where she was a premier? People are still drinking water with animals around rivers here. Another one says, here in Pietermaritzburg, under Umsunduzi, we've been reporting for years pipe linkage, water crossing the road that goes to Azalea Cemetery. That's Delani Dlamini Nzuzwentle. Another one says, can your guest explain the practice of consuming bottled water at council meetings? Does this have to do with the quality of water? And Hlakanipo says so. Another email, SMS immediately after the one, why do ministers use bottled water when they come to functions in those municipalities? When they say water is safe to drink from, that's Butman in KwaThema. Minister, please confirm PE is a huge city that failed a blue drop status. Is that true? That's Harry in PE. I'm going to come back to the minister with these, but let me get a comment from Christine first.
Yeah, first of all, just quickly on the issue of bottled water, one of the corporates that we work closely with is Sanlam, and as part of our Living Waters partnership with them, they've decided to, in all of their offices, move away from bottled water. And really the issue with bottled water is more about the carbon footprint of water. So there's this continual link between water and energy. When the water that comes out of your tap is of good quality, it has a much lower carbon footprint than, having bought a bottle that's had much more treatment and been transported in a less efficient way. So I would certainly hope that in government offices they would be following that example and also drinking tap water. I myself always drink tap water in a restaurant. The issue of people sharing water with animals and in underserviced areas. I've also worked in the deep rural areas of the Eastern Cape, where we see predominantly the women and children who have long walks in steep terrain to go and wait for a long time to gather water in buckets from very small springs. Issuing out of the hillsides. And, they share those springs with goats and with cows. And there are very specific solutions that are needed for different areas. And in an area like that in the Eastern Cape, we would suggest that a small-scale scheme that has well-maintained boreholes that can also use solar power or wind pumps and small-scale local treatment filters that can ensure the water is of good quality for everybody is really appropriate technology. So, in that kind of area, building a dam 50 kilometers away and then piping that water over huge distances and from one central treatment area is not a water-wise solution, and it's also a very high carbon solution. Yeah. So, very much depending on where you are in the landscape, there are more different appropriate solutions. And I think what we would like to see going forward is many countries are in this position. Even in Europe and in the United States, most of their engineered infrastructure was developed after the Second World War. So they're also facing these huge bills of maintaining and upgrading infrastructure.
All right.
And we need to think about new solutions for a much more populated world in which we're moving away from high carbon treatment options.
Christine, let me get a quick comment from the Minister before a commercial break.
I agree fully with Christine, and this is what I said earlier on. Those are the methodologies and mechanisms that we are looking at. Just let me take an example, for instance. In some of the villages around the airport, many villages in KZN, as well as in Eastern Cape, we have already begun pumping water up, yes, but for many villages, we're now using a force of gravity to redirect that water back to those villages. So you use energy just once, and going to feeding into the villages, you're using one methodology. We're looking at wells. This mechanism that I'm talking about to look at the 5.3% remaining and those who never had Xolani is looking at all those kinds of solutions, including portable pumping using portable mechanisms that uses solar and other alternative energy that are there. So I agree. We agree fully with Christine, and those are the methods that we are looking at. And she really would come very handy in making inputs in the processes that we are embarking upon.
Blue drop status for PE, Minister?
We have two blue drop status for Eastern Cape municipalities. I will just check which. There are actually 6 plants there, but 2 of them have blue drop status. Well, the others are not really that bad. As I said earlier on, that the 80% is not what we actually give. Even if it's not, it's good, but we're not giving a blue drop status for it. There are municipalities which are in the Eastern Cape, I know, which is where we said people must not drink. But I do recall that the municipality that he's talking about is not one of those, PE. As I said, we have 2 blue drops there already out of 6.
All right.
There's somebody who spoke about Peter Whaley. Yeah. I understand Peter Whaley is a Grahamstown
farmer.
I beg your pardon?
He's a farmer in Grahamstown.
He's a farmer in Grahamstown. All those things that he's talking about, Wattle, we'll talk about those one day, but they are serious programs that we are dealing with. I agree also with him that we need to be impatient, but who must we be impatient with? He is missing the point. In farming communities also, there's very many toxicities pesticide and insecticides that we are dealing with. We need all the farming community, everybody, industry and everybody to really come on board to ensure that there's no pollution. Not for government to chase every polluter every corner. The nation must be in discussion about how we're stopping this thing.
All right. I've got Andrew in Midrand, Simpiwe in Ramsech, Mampecho in Mautse, Lemayas in Bushbuckreach. Just please hold the line for me. I'll take a commercial break, come back, look at some of the SMSs as well. There's an interesting one from Peter, and perhaps I'm going to ask my guests just to think about it, because Peter says, why is fluoride being added to our water? Is nobody aware of the latest research on the harmful effects of this chemical? Perhaps, Christine, you have a view on this. I'm going to ask you to respond in a minute. It's 8:45.
The Forum at 8 with Xolani Gwala.
Andrew in Midrand, good morning.
Good morning, Xolani. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for holding for me.
I'm okay. Good morning to the minister as well.
Good morning, thank you.
As I said, my name is Andrew. I represent one of the mines in Limpopo. And I'd like to congratulate Minister Chabangu and Minister Molewa for seeing the benefits of getting the two departments to working with regards to granting of water users licenses and the granting of mining rights. However, I do have a very big concern, and my concern is the following. There is no point getting the two departments to work together and, in fact, get the one right to influence the other if the processes that are being used to adjudicate those rights do not talk to one another. We applied for a water users license in 2005, August. We only got granted our water users license last year on the 30th of September 2011. Now, that's about 5 years. And in the meantime, while we were waiting for the adjudication of our water users license, we were on the brink of losing our mining rights. Now, I'm saying that, please, Minister, look at your internal processes, streamline them, get rid of the inefficiencies, because if we were to lose our mining rights, because the Department of Water Affairs took as long as they did with their WULA, then it becomes very unfair on us, the mines who are very willing to comply, who are prepared to do the work, to have to be disadvantaged because there are huge inefficiencies. And I know what I'm talking about. Just as an example on this process, I don't know how many meetings I have gone to where the same issue was raised over and over again by different people within the department who were not talking to each other. I had to spend my time tell them, guys, we addressed this thing. This is how it was addressed. There's the report. Actually, on page so and so and so. I don't know how many times I've done that, but however, be that as it may, I'm happy that the two departments are working together. I just hope and pray that they can look at the inefficiencies so that both can talk to each other and we don't have to wait 5 years like we did for our WULA.
Okay, that's Andrew, and the minister will respond to you in a minute. Let's go to Simpiwe and Ramsech. Hello, Simpiwe.
Yes, hello, and good morning, Xolani, and good morning to your guests.
Hi, welcome,
Good morning.
Morning.
Xolani, I just wanted to firstly thank the minister and her department for this. Our communities really appreciate. But what I do want to do is to maybe, because the minister has touched on KZN, touch on the issue of KZN, because there are some of the most painful experiences there, particularly in the area of Richards Bay, where you find that communities go without water. I'm talking about a daily issue. In the so-called suburbs, water is cut during the day, and in the townships, water is cut during the night, where the criminal element is beginning to take shape. And when water returns in the mornings, I'm talking about an everyday issue, it's so filled with lime and fluoride that it's almost to a point of no usability. I would really appreciate if the minister could look into that, or if the community could at least be appraised as to what is happening and how long this is going to take, because it's going on for 2 years now.
Okay, lime and fluoride. Simpiwe, thank you very much. Let's go to Lemias in Bushbuckreach. Hello.
Morning, Xolani.
Hi, you the Deputy President of SANCO.
That's correct. That's correct, Xolani.
Yeah.
We are actually raising issues that pertain to our people in the community.
Yeah.
Xolani, national government make all provisions of funds, within the limited funds to actually get the Department of Water Affairs to try and assist people to get water. But unfortunately, it's downstream, we have got quite a good number of challenges. One, Kolan, is that where you've got water schemes that Water Affairs has tried to make sure that they are functional, but you'll still find pockets of communities which is supposed to be served by that scheme not receiving water, while they were receiving water some few months or so back, and only when they make noise, then the water comes. So which means there is some naughtiness that is happening. And the second point, Kolani, is that at the level of local municipalities, you have got officials who actually render certain systems dysfunctional. And then in order to actually unleash tenders, for water tankers and whatever. And then which is problematic. On one side as well, the third issue is that they just leave boreholes where communities depend on boreholes. Then they just forget or decide not to pay electricity to Eskom. And Eskom then switches off the borehole and people sit without water. I think this is what the minister, together with the premiers in provinces, then should just try and put their foot down, to remove these mediocre officials that are actually undermining national objectives.
That's Lemayas. Thank you very much, Deputy President of the South African National Civics Organization, Mampejo in Motse. Good morning.
Morning, Pelane. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for your call.
Morning also to the Minister.
Morning, Mampejo.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm calling from Motse in Denelton, Ramatala Lukulir, and Tahosh FS Matala. What we want is, we are struggling with water, but if only Minister can get assistance of getting the machine to pump water from our boreholes so that the village can get what's called water, because we've got a very big problem. We do have an assistance from the government with bulk water sometimes and even the trucks, but that is not enough. We thought maybe if the 6 boreholes that we've got, if machine can be, installed into those boreholes so that the village can get water every now and then, because otherwise we are really struggling. I'm also 60 years old. We have been having this problem for quite some time. Really, Minister, we thought something can be done along that line. I'm from Elas Motaledi municipality, but as I said, my chief is FS Matala, Hamatala Lukulerin, Denelton Mutsi.
All right. Thank you very much. Mampejo, thank you. Minister, just let's address some of these questions before I go to the SMSs.
Yes, very quickly. Somebody spoke about fluoride. We are investigating. We are not able to rely on the report that he spoke about, but we are investigating together with the Health Department on the usage of fluoride. The team is out, headed by the deputy ministers.
So you've heard of it?
We have heard of it. We know, we are aware of that report. But it's not just from South Africa, by the way. It's an external report. We are doing our own investigation as to how our reaction should be like with regards to fluoride. Okay. Andrew, the process that are being used, I think he was talking about, just remind me very quickly.
Okay, Andrew was talking about the processes internally and the coordination between your department and the mining.
Mining. Yes, Andrew will be glad to know that we have actually streamlined already between mining and water. We have already streamlined mining and the EIA. The process of water is getting now on this. I think our teams have finalized already by now. The streamlining even of the processes, the period. For instance, if we are to take 120 days or 60 days or so, all 3 processes must take that kind of period. That's the streamlining in terms of period that we have done. And what Andrew is talking about is a backlog that we have had for many years. Now, since last year or 2 years ago, former minister set up a team that's called Lizima, a Project Lizima. That Project Lizima started with a backlog of almost 6,000 applications of licenses that emerged from 2002, Kolani. As I speak, there are less than 300 remaining. And those less than 300, it's not where we have a decision to make. It's where we are waiting for the reserve determination to be made, because you can't issue a license unless you are sure that there is water in that area. So there's a scientific method that we are using to determine the reserves. But we have wiped the backlog, I must say. Andrew must just be rest assured that the processes are also being streamlined. We are not just dealing with those, but also looking at the systems. Andrew and the likes of people who are applying will, in a short space of time in the near future, be able to just check online the stage at which their licenses are. At the same time, we are dealing with a forward-looking approach. We have not just been dealing with backlog, but new applications as well. You realize that this is a very big work, but our teams have actually been on top of it. I would like to believe and have confidence now that we are on track. We are left with very, very less work to do going forward as well.
Just sorry to interrupt you, because just on that, I wanted to ask you what your department and your view is about plans to frack in the Karoo.
Oh, yes, we are still waiting for the juries out. With report of Minister Shabangu. And I think once we have looked at that report, remember, Cabinet asked that that department puts a team together. We are part of that to look at whether fracking should be allowed or not. So I can't comment until that report is out, Xolani. So we are working with them. We're looking also at water, impact on water. In this, and the study is also currently being done.
All right, there was Simpiwe slightly also talking about the issues of lime and fluoride.
I really would like to get on ground and check this issue that Simpiwe is talking about. It does sound, like water shortage in the area of KZN. The entire KZN, not entire KZN, Durban in particular, eThekwini municipality around that area and Pietermaritzburg. There's been shortage of water through leakages. And the municipalities, I must say that they've actually, especially eThekwini, have fixed those leakages. The losses of water have been causing that there should be shortage of water and therefore rationing happening. It does sound like a rationing issue. I'll attend to that. Let me assure you that I'll get onto the ground to look at that problem.
Okay, I'm going to ask Christine just to give me a comment, but let me just take this one last call from Tabiso. Hello, Tabiso. Tabiso?
Yes, Xolani, how are you?
I'm very well. Go ahead, Tabiso.
Oh, thank you. We are having a problem here with our government here. And when coming to the scarcity of water, that leads to people protesting against the government, making other comments with regard to that. It's very much important for the government to ensure that the people are being involved in coming to issues of water scarcity. Because now when coming to such issues, we become the people decide to protest. The government will only respond when they see any protest.
Okay, so in other words, Tabiso is talking about transparency. People must be involved and people must understand some of the issues that are going on. Christine, your last comment for me, please.
Yeah, I think, we've heard about this harmonized licensing system, and we would like to see within that that obviously that includes some areas where there is no mining for coal. And that water really is prioritized, that the standard of EIAs and EMPs that are drawn up in that must really be of a good standard. What we'd also like to see is that the license conditions are made public, particularly for miners. At the moment, it's difficult to know if you go and ask a mine, well, what are the conditions around you being allowed to use water in this area? It's really difficult to find out either from DMR or from the miners themselves. In other countries, that would be posted on their website and that would be public and accessible information. We need to have much more transparency in this area so that neighbours can keep an eye on whether people are using water according to their rights to use it.
All right.
And the issues that we've heard about boreholes breaking down, I think, that's really key to this. We need to have a workforce of trained people who can do the operation and maintenance in the rural areas and create jobs in the rural areas through this sort of training scheme. And I'd really like to see that implemented in the future.
Your final word, Minister?
I think I've already spoken to that issue about the training teams that we are training to deal with that issue of management of the boreholes, not just those, but even refurbishing systems all over the country. We're really on top of that. Christine talks about the conditions for licensing. It's something that's very important to consider because, if mining, because we do give conditions, by the way, it's not a license that always licenses that says do anything you want. So it's important that people around that area know about those conditions and are also able to help us in keeping a check on those mines. Okay. It's something that we'll have to consider.
All right, Minister Edna Molewa.
Finally, Tabiso talks about involvement of the people. Yeah. We agree. We are putting this in the law. By the way, we are reviewing the legislations of water. It's something that one of the few pieces of legislation that doesn't have people participation, and that's a very, very important work.
Minister Edna Molewa and Christine Colvin, I really thank you both for coming through and talking to us this morning. I thank the team as well, Meshusha Ntlale, Wisana Makubele, and Colin Lemawane, senior producer Chili Dichibase, and technical producer Ntokozo Kuzwayo, chief producer Budzilu Goto, executive producers Busi Chane and Aubrey Sechia. It's 9 o'clock, meaning that is time now for Morning Talk. Until Monday, you have a fine weekend ahead. Sigim Kaba Daily on your radio next. Cheers. 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 Daily on your radio next.